Celebrating Easter in Britain become controversial. Today we're looking at a story that's left many Brits stunned. Protest outside a primary school where Easter was cancelled, not by public demand, but in the name of inclusivity, as a primary school in the UK decided to cancel its traditional Easter bonnet parade and Easter service, events that have been part of British school life for generations. The reason given? Inclusivity. According to a letter sent out by the head teacher, Miss Manda, the school would not be holding these long-standing Easter traditions this year.
Have you seen what's happening to British traditions in our schools? A primary school just axed Easter celebrations in favour of Refugee Week, claiming it's for diversity reasons. This isn't just about chocolate eggs and bunnies. When political leader Nick confronted this blatant attack on British Christian heritage, a woke activist tried to defend the indefensible. What followed was a complete dismantling of every weak argument about why Easter should be pushed aside in a nation where Christianity has shaped our culture for centuries. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. So what's really happening when a British primary school suddenly decides that Easter, a cornerstone of our cultural heritage, just isn't worth celebrating anymore? The answer lies in a troubling letter penned by head teacher Stephanie Manda at St Stephen's Primary School in Newham, East London. This wasn't some minor schedule adjustment, it was a calculated erasure of tradition. In her letter to parents, Manda claimed the Easter service cancellation was necessary for diversity reasons. But here's where it gets interesting. This same school didn't simply remove Easter celebrations, they actively replaced them with Refugee Week activities. The message couldn't be clearer. Christian traditions must make way for supposedly more inclusive alternatives. The physical transformation of the school speaks volumes. Where once stood displays celebrating the resurrection story and colourful Easter crafts, now hang generic diversity posters and inclusivity messaging. The Christian symbols weren't simply moved, they were systematically removed while new ideological imagery took their place.
Just like that, Easter was quietly pushed aside. Not because children complained, not because parents demanded it, but because a school leadership team thought the very presence of Easter in a British school might offend. Let's be absolutely clear here. Inclusivity should never mean erasing the cultural and religious traditions of the majority. A Christian celebration rooted deeply in British history, our calendar, our education system, and yes, our national identity. Outside the school gates, passionate but peaceful protesters gathered. Some held signs, including one that branded Miss Manda, the Grinch who stole Easter.
Parents gathered outside the school gates in a protest organised by UKIP representatives, their frustration palpable. "My daughter came home confused," one mother testified. "She asked why Jesus wasn't important anymore. How am I supposed to explain that to a 7-year-old? Another father described his son's disappointment at not being able to perform in the Easter service. His class had been practicing for weeks. This didn't happen in isolation. The timing aligns perfectly with other recent cases across Britain, from councils rebranding Christmas markets as winter festivals, to hospitals removing crosses from chapels. It's a pattern of institutional decisions systematically targeting Christian traditions while bending over backwards to accommodate other faiths." Let's look at Manda's exact words again. "We're still teaching about Easter in RE lessons, but the church service doesn't reflect our diverse community. The contradiction is glaring. If Easter remains educationally valuable enough to teach in classrooms, why is celebrating it suddenly divisive? More tellingly, did anyone actually complain about the Easter service? Or was this a preemptive strike against an imagined offence?"
UKIP leader Nick, who attended the protest, read Miss Manda's letter aloud beside a table of Easter eggs. He accused the school of putting Christianity to the side in order to tick a diversity box and receive more funding. Now that's a strong claim, but it reflects a deep frustration among many Christians who feel sidelined, silenced, and mocked for simply wanting to keep their traditions alive in the public square. And let's talk about the so-called supporters on the other side of the road. ICRA, representing an external group, not even parents from the school.
When political leader Nick arrived at the scene, he was immediately confronted by a self-righteous activist eager to defend the school's decision. This encounter would soon expose the hollow reasoning behind the ban, and believe me, you'll want to see how quickly their arguments fall apart when faced with basic logical questions. The moment Nick stepped forward to confront the activist, what had been a heated protest transformed into something far more revealing. The activist, initially brimming with righteousness, approached Nick with a practiced argument. The school was indeed still celebrating Easter, just without the church service component. This carefully crafted talking point, designed to sound reasonable on its surface, was about to collapse under the weight of logical scrutiny. Nick's immediate response cut straight to the heart of the matter. Britain has over 1,000 years of Christian heritage, he stated firmly, gesturing toward the school building where children had practiced for weeks for a service they would never perform. When you remove the religious element from Easter, you're not still celebrating, you're deliberately stripping it of its meaning. The footage captures a pivotal moment as Nick references demographic statistics that the activist clearly wasn't prepared to address. Christianity remains the declared faith of 59% of British citizens, Nick pointed out, his voice steady as cameras captured the activist's confidence, visibly wavering. We're talking about the majority faith in this country being systematically excluded in the name of inclusion. Do you not see the contradiction? What happens next in the video reveals a classic diversionary tactic. When faced with these uncomfortable facts, the activist attempts to conflate religion with race, suggesting Nick's defense of Christian traditions somehow targeted Muslim communities. Nick immediately identifies this rhetorical sleight of hand. Islam is a religion, not a race, he responds, refusing to allow this distraction to derail the actual point about cultural erasure.
I give you Norwood Primary and Preschool. There's a letter that they've sent out, reportedly, that says that they are cancelling Easter. So this is Norwood Primary School. Now, this is the letter that's been sent out. After careful consideration and discussions with our school community, we've decided not to hold the Easter bonnet parade, remembering, of course, that this might be important to a lot of people, as this is a Christian country.
The exchange intensifies as the activist accuses Nick of intolerance and not respecting diversity. Here, Nick delivers perhaps his most devastating counterargument. Who's being intolerant here? You're defending the removal of traditions practiced by the majority of this country. You're advocating for the erasure of our cultural heritage while calling it diversity. That's not diversity. That's replacement. The video's most telling moments come from the activist's body language, the defensive crossing of arms, the shifting gaze, the increasingly frustrated interruptions as Nick calmly continues presenting his case. Bystanders begin nodding in agreement with Nick, and several parents step forward to voice their support. One particularly powerful reaction shot shows a mother of West Indian descent stepping forward to agree with Nick, completely undermining the activist's attempted framing of the debate as white nationalism versus diversity. My family came to Britain because we admired its culture and traditions, she says. Why would we want to erase the very things that make Britain what it is? What we've witnessed is the culmination of a calculated agenda. Stephanie Mander didn't simply reschedule Easter, she deliberately replaced it with Refugee Week under the guise of diversity issues. This isn't accommodation, it's erasure of Christian heritage while pretending to be inclusive. This pattern will continue unless we take action. Attend school board meetings, question curriculum changes, request transparency about religious observances, join parent committees, support candidates who value traditional British culture. As Nick powerfully stated, our traditions aren't obstacles to diversity, they're the foundation of our shared identity. Without them, we have nothing to unite us as a nation. This isn't about exclusion, it's about remembering who we are.